Welcome to Ballers and Briefs for November the 15th. This is Thursday night, week 11 Showdown and week 10 recap. So, first want to start out, give Phil's baby boy, Luca, big happy 4th birthday. Happy 4th birthday, Luca.
My man's hyped.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. So with that being said, I think week 10 was crazy. Did you see, I put it in the description, Josh Dobbs has a nickname now. NASA is calling him the Passtronaut because my man worked for NASA, or did some work for NASA because he has an aerospace engineering degree. And so NASA's termed him the Passtronaut. So my man has a job coming out. If he doesn't work out in the NFL, which if all
else fails, he can go to the moon for us. Don't worry.
Yeah, the last 2 weeks has showed that he might be able to do something with a good offense. I mean, he's 256 passing yards and a touchdown on Sunday. So.
Yeah, they pooped on my Saints.
Yeah. And then something else I thought of, you called it. Jaguars just rolled over and let the 49ers ram it all the way up in there. I mean, it was just terrible. I ended up getting the win in the 12-man league with Trevor Lawrence with a whole 2 points.
They gave free tickets to Enzo for this Sunday's Jags game.
Really?
Some people at his school and all this shit. I'm like, damn, they must be losing fans again now that they're playing like shit. The way they started the season, that they wasn't giving out no tickets.
They had a 5-game winning streak and were obviously sole possession of number one in the division in the AFC South. My Texans have started catching ground on them, and we have the tiebreaker, so we play them again in a couple weeks. So Texans might pull the old rug out from under them and win the AFC South. We are currently 7th place.
Stroud's popping.
Stroud is
2 weeks in a row popping.
I mean, this week he finally threw his second interception. So George is back. George is back. I'm 9-1 and just traded away Kenneth Walker for Tony Pollard. I was worried about the Seahawks schedule and Zach Charbonnet. I don't dislike that. I don't dislike it terribly.
I don't know why the fuck Tony Pollard hasn't been doing shit, but I kind of like that, to be honest. I mean, Pollard's due. I said it last week. He's due.
And, well, yeah, Tony Pollard for sure. But the thing about it is, like, the problem with, like, this last week, Dallas just started running. I mean, they were beating up on a terrible Giants team. And why would you have your? Why would
I feel like that's why you would want Pollard in.
Yeah,
but just let him fucking run all over him. But he wasn't. I don't know. Maybe he's injured and they're not telling anybody, and they're just kind of.
Well, I think that Tony Pollard did his best work when he had Zeke there. And Zeke was taking all the maximum touches, and Tony Pollard was taking all of the third down ones, and he was breaking off the runs when people were stacking the box, thinking they were going to do a traditional Zeke type in the A gap between the tackles run, and Tony Pollard does a stretch play and takes it outside, or that bullshit handoff stuff that you see.
Yeah, but he hasn't even been doing that the last 2 weeks. Prior to that, he was Pollard. The last 2 weeks, he's been, maybe because I've been betting on him, I don't fucking know, but he's been doing nothing. I'm thinking he's like nursing an injury like Burrow was the first couple weeks of the season.
That we don't know. And
yeah, that no one knows about. He's just not himself.
George does say Zach Charbonnet. Brad called Zach Charbonnet last week and said, hey, he's somebody to watch. Charbonnet is a rookie, and I have seen him cutting into every little bit. He's just turning into that Pete Carroll shit that we've seen in the past, where Pete Carroll gets a number one running back, pound, 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 pound. And then as the season progresses, he starts giving touches away to a second string guy, or like in the past where it was like
trying to find that Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah, he had like Chris Carson in the past, and then he was giving it to like totes to Rashad Penny and Travis Homer and Kenneth Walker when he first got there and shit like that. And now we're seeing you have a bell cow running back with Kenneth Walker, and now he's kind of ceding touches to Zach Charbonnet. So I don't dislike that. I think Dallas is going to have to – they're not going to keep playing from ahead like this they have been. I mean, they've got dog fucked by good teams. So I think that's the thing. And then Drew says, is Murray going to play themselves out of the number one pick? I don't think the Cardinals end up with the number one pick for sure. They're already like the fourth pick, I think, right now. I think the Bears – this is going to be the Bears' first pick because they're going to get it from Carolina. So that's my take on it. I don't think Arizona gets the number one pick. And I think if they did, Caleb Williams is not going to go there anyway. So
I think this Sunday is going to be a nice little shootout in that Arizona game.
With Houston?
Yeah. Little meaty game there.
Yeah. So with that being said, I think let's just kick it off and go straight into since we were kind of on the Dallas subject, let's talk about this Millie Maker lineup from Sunday.
Quarterback was Dak Prescott, 41 fantasy points on DraftKings.
7.6% owned. That
Sick.
It's not that's I mean that is something that
he had a rushing touchdown. When was the last time we seen Dak rush a touchdown?
I can't tell you off the top of my head.
Exactly. So, I think that's that fluke shit, and that's that fluke shit you need to win the Millie Maker, right?
Well, 42 points from Dak Prescott is a fucking fluke. Like, Dak Prescott's not a 42.
Like a week ago, though, which is the problem.
He's not
like
a
40-something the other week. Last week. Week before, or something like that.
He's not a 42-point quarterback. You would think – I personally ran CJ Stroud in the Millie thinking he was going to kind of repeat. He ended up with 25 points, but 25 points from a quarterback is
good.
But you got Dak Prescott with 41 because, again,
he was cheaper.
Beating the dog shit out of the Giants, like literally the dog shit. Now, he
stacked that with CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks. So he had to have the right too.
The Cooks and Lamb. You just said you were last week. I think it was the last week. I had
you had Gallup or something.
I had Gallup in the Millie, and you were like, I can't run Gallup with Cooks in there. And what happens? Well, we've seen CD now 2 weeks in a row in the Millie.
And Rachaad White 2 weeks in a row.
Rachaad White 2 weeks in a row.
Lineup.
In the Millie.
And he's not even getting good numbers. Like, he only had 17 fantasy points. But for some reason it works because there was no other running back at that price that got 17 points. It was only 3x value. It wasn't even anything exciting that he did good. It's just he in the optimal lineup.
Trade Burrow and Connor for Hurts? Absolutely. Absolutely. Hurts is going to be the number one quarterback this week. Watch. If that questionable tag drops off, he is going to show his ass on Monday night against the Chiefs. I think so. I like that, Chandler. I like that trade 100%. I'm trading Burrow all day long for Jalen Hurts upside, especially when you have
consistency.
You're getting rid of one running back in Joe Burrow for Hurts, which is basically a quarterback and a running back together. And you said your other running backs are Pollard, Etienne, Kyron when he comes off of IR, and then you have Kareem Hunt, who now Deshaun Watson is hurt and is on injured reserve. He's done. He's done for the season. No Deshaun Watson. So what are the Browns going to do? Run the ball to protect the lead. They're going to try to get runs and win that way. That's the way they're
win on their defense.
Yeah, their defense is number one defense in the league right now. So, that's what they're gonna lean on. And they just beat the the Baltimore Ravens with that defense. That's what they won with. It wasn't the offense. I mean, of course, Watson drove them down there and they got the win, but it was on a field goal, and it was because of their defense pick six Lamar Jackson. So that's the only reason they were in that position. So yes, I like that trade. And George says he has Tua as his starting quarterback, but I'm worried about the playoff schedule. I have Fields and Purdy on the bench. Should I trade Tua and Tank Dell for Isaiah Pacheco?
Fuck no.
Or
I'm confused with that. There's no way you're trading Tua and Tank Dell for Pacheco. That's not a serious question, is it?
I mean, I don't. When is your league over? Because are you playing all 18 weeks of the regular season? Are you playing week 17? Is it stop week 17? So that's a question that we
fuck when it stops. Pacheco is like mediocre at best.
I know that. I'm not getting rid of Tua. I mean, he says
Swift is mediocre at best. And you're talking about Tank Dell, who's absolutely been crushing, and Tua, who's always gonna be
week 17 stop. Crushing. I wouldn't worry about the playoffs because they're not gonna be sitting players, and the Chiefs are I don't think are gonna end up with the number 1 seed. I just don't think so. I think that because they're number 1 right now, I don't see that they could end up this Denver team that's beaten the Chiefs once and beaten the Bills now is starting to turn it around. Sean Payton.
Sean Payton, baby.
I mean, it's turning it around, and don't count out the rest of the AFC. I mean, the AFC's stacked. I mean, don't count out Baltimore. So I don't think that the Chiefs are going to be in that. We're going to start sitting players. Shit, I just don't see that. You have Fields and Purdy on the bench. I guess Fields is okay.
He's
okay. He's been hurt. He's coming back this week, but is he going to be the same?
First off, Tua plays the Raiders, I think, this week. You're not getting rid of Tua before that game. If you are, you're crazy.
CMC
should drop 35 plus points.
CMC, Pollard, Warren, Keaton, Mitchell, and Fournette. Okay, so I'm not sold on Fournette even actually touching the field for the Bills yet. I don't know. I mean, they just fired the offensive coordinator, so that I'm not a thing. And I saw Lat Murray. Lat Murray is God mode right now for them. I mean, I know James Cook was eating up, but Lat Murray seems to be getting touches when I'm thinking they need to be throwing the ball. And they're giving the damn ball to Lat Murray, who's getting 10 yards down the field, and he's even catching them out of the backfield, and that's not even something that he does. So, I mean, CMC, I think you're good. Tony Pollard, I think you're good. Jaylen Warren, I like him. I like him a lot.
Najee Harris was in the Millie Maker, all right? So let's keep it real.
I mean, I still like Jaylen Warren. He had 18 damn points.
Najee Harris was in the Millie Maker, man.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, he's talking about for season long and depth here. Like, CMC's already had his bye. I think Dallas had their bye.
First two are straight. CMC and Pollard. You shouldn't even be worried about the rest.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even play Fournette, dude. That's just
he wasn't even activated the other night. So I wouldn't worry about him. I just hold him out.
Doesn't matter. It's not a team that runs the ball like that neither. So
that's what I'm saying. Like, the Bills should be running the ball when they're not, and they should be fucking throwing the ball when they're running the ball.
Yeah, so they're not like a pound the ground team. So
they pound the ground with fucking Josh Allen is who they pound the ground with.
Yes, they're gonna get their quarterback fucked up.
So,
but I go back to the Millie Maker lineup. Najee Harris was in there. I had him in cash. I shared it with Cody. I don't know if he copied that or not.
Your cash lineup?
Yeah, and then
I have it in here somewhere.
I had Keenan Allen in my lineups. Keenan Allen was in the Millie Maker, and then TJ Hawkinson was in the Millie Maker. I did not have him, but Cody
had him in my cash lineup. So
if me and Cody would have just fucking combined lineups, we probably could have made this Millie Maker.
Yeah.
He had, and then I had Trey McBride, who was also in this, but Cody had Hawkinson. I had Trey McBride. This person ran double tight end. He did not do a bring back. And he stacked Dak Prescott with 2 and won the Millie Maker.
And
he had the defense I had, Arizona.
Yeah, which was look at their ownership. They were 12% owned, which was a defense that we had in cash.
Yeah. So he ate the chalk in a couple spots. He ate the chalk with Keenan Allen, and he ate the chalk with Trey McBride, and he ate the chalk with the Cardinals defense. And he got different by playing Dak Prescott, Najee Harris,
pass catchers.
Yeah, Rashad White, and he ran 2 tight ends. So his flex was a tight end.
And I mean, it was so we talk about differences between the first and second place. This wasn't as big of a destroying of first and second, which they were sold. Second place had 256 points versus 260. So he won. Difference. Yeah, right around 4 points.
Let it be known, though, that 260 is a very high score. It's also what won last week or something, and that's a high score. Usually it's like 230 to 240.
And it was the second place was Dak Prescott with Brian Robinson Jr. from the Commanders, Bijan Robinson. He had CD from the Millie Maker, which he had Dak from the Millie Maker, CD from the Millie Maker, Keenan Allen from the Millie Maker. He had Tyler Boyd, who I had.
I had Tyler Boyd too.
And Trey McBride.
Had Hawkinson. He didn't have Hawkinson?
He had Trey McBride from the Millie Maker. He had Noah Brown. And the Bengals defense.
My lineup scored like 190 or something like that. 70 points from this, but I didn't have Hawkinson. And I didn't have CeeDee Lamb. So there's my fucking 70-point difference.
Yeah. I mean, my cash lineup had 200 points, and it was, I mean, literally a Joe Burrow, Tyler Boyd stack. And I took first in all my small entry cash lineups, and then in the big like $5 giants, I had like 44th and like 16th, right? So
cashed everywhere.
Yeah, it cashed because I had Amon-Ra St. Brown, who was around 73% owned, right? So
that's what I had too.
And then Dallas's defense too were like 50% owned and like it went down to 8 points, which was crazy because of the garbage time stuff that they started letting at the end. So with that being said, I was just thinking, like, I mean, my cash lineup had guys that are I feel like the second place one was really chalky, except for the Brian Robinson Jr.
Did he bring anybody? Did he do a bring back from the Giants?
No bring back from the Giants.
No bring back in the Millie Maker neither, in the winning Millie Maker.
No. And then third place was 249, so they were 11 points off, which our recurring theme here is Dak, Brandon Cooks as his wide receiver and quarterback combo, Rashad White from the Millie Maker, Trey McBride, and CeeDee Lamb as his flex. So he did double the Dak Prescott with 2 pass catchers.
I think you need to stack Dak with 2.
Now you have to.
Well, he's not a running quarterback, even though he had a rushing touchdown.
It's
the running quarterbacks you don't need to stack 2 with. Like Lamar, you never need to stack 2 with. And
404 passing yards. I mean, the top 5 guys, actually the top 6.
4 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. That's just not ever going to happen again from Dak. So
no, I'm looking.
I saw Trayvon Diggs said that his brother needs to be put on another team. I was wondering if he meant Dallas. That would be overkill in there.
I mean,
could you imagine trying to cover CeeDee Lamb, Stephon Diggs, and Brandon Cooks? It would be impossible.
No way. You know, somebody that I just saw. You remember Chipotle Addict? You remember Chipotle Addict?
He's one of the top pros.
He got 13th, and he split with, or he was actually 13th, sold 13th place. And I just was digging down through here, and
you did all that one last week?
Yeah.
First place with the 4 stack Houston players, dude. That shit's crazy.
Yeah, so like Chipotle Addict, and anybody that had Dak Prescott and had him with any pass catcher, because this guy had Chipotle Addict, he's 13th, and Dak Prescott, CD, and Jake Ferguson, the tight end. So he ran 2 tight ends with a Trey McBride and Jake Ferguson and CeeDee Lamb. So you're not
a good way to get different.
Rashad White, Keenan Allen, Noah Brown, Buccaneers defense. So, I mean, Dak Prescott was the end-all, be-all this week, and I hate to say it, but I don't think it's going to happen again. But it was against a terrible.
I'll tell you this: I will never roster Dak as my quarterback.
He's too volatile.
I don't like Dallas at all. I can't root for him, but also like you talk boomer bust, he is your boomer bust, and your quarterback cannot be boomer bust. Your people that are rostering him are just fucking out of their mind. And they're getting lucky.
I don't know how you even get to Dak. I mean, nobody in the top 20 places in the Millie Maker did not have Dak. 21st had Josh Dobbs, who had 25 points.
And you could have rostered Stroud as well with 25.
Yeah. I mean, Josh Dobbs was only 5,500, though. So CJ was like closer to 6 something. I mean, even that, like, I sent you that one lineup where it was a free contest. And I had 208 points in it, and it was a Brock Purdy lineup. So, I mean, 208 would have not done hardly. I mean, it would have done maybe 100.
And that's a good score, dude. Anything over 200 is usually good money.
About $150 in the Millie Maker. 208.
When I won all that money, I think I had a 222 score.
Yeah, so
I lost to a 224.
I just feel like we're seeing a lot over the last couple of weeks. We've seen a lot of high-scoring lineups. 2
weeks, 260s. That's insane numbers, man.
Yeah, it is. So,
because if you use an optimizer, every time you make a lineup in an optimizer, like the most you'll see is like a 170 projection, and these motherfucking lineups are coming out almost 100 points above that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think I saw maybe a 185 or 187 maybe this last week, and that's
based on projections. Yeah. They don't ever project somebody to get 40 fucking points. So
never, because it takes so much. That's 5 touchdowns. I mean, Dak Prescott had 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
4 passing and 1 rushing. And that's not gonna
keep happening, because eventually Pollard's gonna get back in the game and he's gonna have his 2 or 3 that he gets. Might even be one for the backup. Who knows? And then Dak's gonna have a fucking score of 12, and all these idiots are gonna sit here playing him thinking he's gonna drop another 40.
I don't think it happens again. I think his ceiling is there, and I mean they're not. Dallas has not got a shit ton of teams to beat up on left on their schedule.
They already did that to Giants this year anyway, so they just did that shit twice to them. That's all that was.
And the Jets too, you know, like they did that to the Jets, you know, but that was defense, right? So, I mean, they have left on their schedule. They have the Panthers, who has even though they're dog shit, they have a good pass defense. The Commanders, again, who are dog shit, but they have a mediocre defense.
And they're division rivals. So.
Yeah. Seahawks, who have a good defense. They play the Eagles, the Bills, the Dolphins, the Lions, and the Commanders one more time. They're not – Dak's no fucking way throwing for over 400 yards against any of those teams left. Maybe unless the Bills totally fall apart and their defense got old quick. But I just don't believe it. Don't believe it. I feel like they just took advantage of a Giants team that's just in a slow-rolling tank at this point. So – no fucking way. So
move on into tomorrow's game.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Nice little division rival there too. It's Cincinnati at Baltimore. They played earlier this year and it was a 51-point game. It was like 27-24, something like that. Yes. Yeah, 27 for the Ravens, 24 for the Bengals. So could be, and I think that was like in September, so that was probably when Burrow was a little injured.
He was still hurt, yes, at that point.
So now you might get a little bigger game, especially since it looks like the Browns might have figured out late in that game last week how to get around this Baltimore defense. And if Cincinnati can do the same thing. I don't know the injuries, though. You were talking about there's a lot of injuries.
Yeah, so something that I was thinking about before I got to the injuries is something that the Bengals can do even is stop the run. Except for some reason, when we played them, it was weird. I guess Devin Singletary decided to become a running back for once in his life.
They probably just didn't prepare for that.
Yeah, but they're not going to run on them. But they did. They were good at stopping the run, at least divisional opponents. They stopped the run against the Bills and a little bit of the. So their defense is mediocre at best. They're not this Ravens defense, right? But I don't think the Ravens have they didn't face God mode Burrow, right? Like he's kind of like ascended back to where we've seen Burrow in the past. And so with that being said, some things that make me kind of go, for tomorrow is he's going to be without T. Higgins again. Hamstring, he didn't practice. He's going to be.
See, though, he likes Trent Irwin without Higgins in there.
Yes. Okay, so here we go. So Trent Irwin is going to be probably the 3 again, right? Like he likes him, though, because he runs those same routes. Those like good
a tight end out there, dude. I think that's why he likes him.
And so, and no Andre Iosivas, the 4th string guy that was out there that was catching. He's out. Yeah, so that, and then another like a 5th string wide receiver is questionable with a thumb injury. So
Charlie Jones.
Yeah, and then their second best defensive end, Sam Hubbard, is out with an ankle injury. So your ex-Saint Trey Hendrickson, who is like, I want to punch y'all's general manager in the face, Mickey Loomis, all the time for letting him go, because him and Cam on the other side were amazing together as defensive ends, by the way. But Trey's out here like crushing deep offensive lines. He just doesn't get talked about enough. He's really good. But with them being without Sam Hubbard, a lot of the double teams are going to go to Trey Hendrickson, and so that leaves it open on the other side for Lamar to kind of escape out of the pocket. But with that being said, on the Ravens side, they're going to be without their starting right tackle, Ronnie Stanley. So that could hurt. And then they have their number 1 corner, Marlon Humphrey, is doubtful. So that could be a exploitable spot if they have to put in like a backup 3rd string, 4th string corner.
Who would he cover though?
Marlon Humphrey would be stuck to Jamar Chase.
And if he's not in, Chase is gonna eat. Ain't no backup covering Chase.
I mean, I'll just look at
no backup locking down Chase, I should say.
Yeah. I'm looking at the depth
it's just too good. I mean, also, I saw that Jamar Chase is Cincinnati Bengals captain 36% of the time. That's massive. The next closest captain for them on their team is their QB at 11%. So it's either Burrow or Chase. The other people are just like random, or it's the other team. And then on top of that, it correlates with Baltimore because Baltimore, their opponent's wide receiver 1 is the captain 18% of the time. So
because their secondary is exploitable. Their defense is good in their front 7. So like their defensive line, which is got guys like Jadeveon Clowney and what's his name? Shit. Fuck. What's I thinking? Michael Pierce, who's like their nose tackle, lines up over the center and the guards. And so I see tempered expectations for Joe Mixon tomorrow, just because the simple fact of the matter is I think that it's harder to run on Baltimore than it is to throw on them.
That makes me just love Jamar Chase. I mean, if the problem with Jamar Chase is the ownership's going to be high. So you're going to have to get extremely different somewhere else, or there's just going to be a lot of people splitting tomorrow. But it looks specifically good when it correlates, and it correlates with Baltimore. So do with that what you will.
I think that, I mean, this last week, right? Like in FanDuel, I ran a lineup with Irv Smith in it, thinking that he was going to be like filling in kind of in that T. Higgins type end zone, red zone type. They were going to go back to the tight end like they did the week before, like they did against Buffalo, throwing the ball to the tight end down in the red zone, and they didn't. But I thought about it, and Baltimore is not that good against the tight end either.
So
if the Trenton Irwins of the world is running the tight end style routes, it's going to be great for him. But if not, I think that you're going to see one of these 57 tight ends that the freaking Bengals have.
Smith, Tanner Hudson, Drew Sample, Mitchell Wilcox. It's a lot. To make it easier, though, you can't, because Irv Smith had 9% targets last week. Tanner Hudson had 11%, and Drew Sample had 9%. So it looks like they're not set on Irv Smith, and that they're trying to see what the other people can do out on the field. But I also think that that's why he likes Irwin, because he runs those type of routes, and he's a bigger body, and he catches the ball and he makes plays with it because he is a wide receiver. And he also only had, I don't know how many receptions he had, but I know he had didn't he have a touchdown?
Yes.
That's what I thought.
He had, hang on.
I was about to look it up too. Because every time I looked up there, I was like, man, this motherfucker's eating, dude.
He was two receptions on 4 targets for 54 yards and a TD. So that's 13.4 points. In the
He was only like 3,600 too, so he cleared value all day long.
Yeah, 13.4 points in a showdown is crucial.
Well, that was 4x value, just about.
I mean,
that's all you need.
And
you probably need a little more than that to win the millie, but
And for instance, there's not if this Charlie Jones dude does not play, you're scratching the bottom of the barrel at wide receiver. I mean, there's no bot there. Trenton Irwin is it, right?
That's what I'm saying. It's pretty set. It's easy to know who the 3 are: Chase, Boyd, and Irwin.
And that's the thing. I imagine Irwin, in this case, is going to be high owned tomorrow, just because he's only 4,400. So
I wouldn't get different there. I wouldn't get different there with Charlie Jones.
No, I know that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if the only way to get off of it, if it's chalk, this may be one of those games you have to eat the chalk on a wide receiver for the Bengals, which is what I'm saying. But if you have to get off of him, the only way you're going to get off of him with someone that can catch the passes is take a chance, a flyer on one of these tight ends, and you're not going to. I don't know who to say who's the one to go to. Like you just said, they're all on the field, 9%, 9%, 9%. You know,
yeah, so. I think some ways to get different also would be the tight end for Baltimore. Likely gets touchdowns. He makes plays. You know, a lot of people are going to be all over Andrews. A good way to get different is Isaiah Likely, especially in the showdown. I think you get different with him. I don't think I'd go as far as Drew Sample or Wilcox. I think if you played Irv Smith or Tanner Hudson, you'd have enough exposure going around. And then, you know, the Baltimore wide receivers is hit or miss. I think Zay Flowers has done nothing, right? Like the last 3 weeks. So he could be due. Odell Beckham's been seeing some work. I saw Bateman get a catch or two last week. Nelson Aguilar had a fucking touchdown or a great game combined or something just recently. So that's where you're going to – I wouldn't even worry about the Bengals side. Like, they're easy to narrow down and get your exposures to. It's going to be the Baltimore side that you're like, fuck.
Well, Mark Andrews, when they played Cincinnati in week 2, he was coming off of an injury because he didn't play in week 1. So he was coming off that injury that he had at the beginning of the season. He was 5 receptions on 8 targets for 45 yards and a TD. So that's 15.5 points. I think that
it's not enough.
I know for what he costs, right? So what I was about to say is I know Dalton Schultz this week against Cincinnati. He went 4 for 6 for 71 yards and didn't have a TD. So what I'm saying is here is the Bengals are susceptible to the tight end themselves. So I like the getting different with using the Isaiah Likely because we have seen in the past Mark Andrews come out for like a play and a half and they're inside the red zone or inside the 10-yard line, and Isaiah Likely gets a catch into the
correct
back pylon, you know, and because he can play, he's a body too.
Another thing is everybody has a button in their brain that during, you know, showdowns for Baltimore, they have to play Lamar Jackson because of his dual threat capability and that he breaks slates, which he does. But if you full fade him or you don't play a shit ton of him, that's another way to get different. And a person who has done that and won the Millie Maker was Bobby Wow. And he full faded Lamar Jackson on a slate where he was like 40% owned in the captain and 90% owned in the flex. He full faded
Tyler Huntley game, right?
Yeah, and I think he went out of the game and somebody else had came in or something. And that person wasn't in the nuts, but the lineup that won was Bobby Wow's Millie Maker lineup by itself. Won $1 million, no Lamar Jackson in it. So immediately he was already ahead of like 90% of the people just by not rostering him. So things like that can get different as well in this game. Like Jamar Chase, full fade him in this game, and he doesn't do anything, he'd be killing it. But right now, I'm thinking he's a chalk you have to eat.
It's another thing that was kind of getting me again, we're back to this. Is it a Gus Edwards show, or is this Keaton Mitchell kid coming along and going to be stealing touches? Because I know on Sunday, I think they both got touchdowns.
Yeah.
So Gus went 11 attempts for 24 yards and a TD, which only got him 9.8 points. But Mitchell went 3 attempts for 34 yards and a touchdown, and he went 1 reception on 2 targets for 32 yards. So there's your difference.
Is he moving in front of Justice Hill? It's tough. I
even think Justice Hill got a touchdown.
I just told somebody this the other day in the Discord that fucking with Baltimore's backfield is impossible. You know, that one week I called the match of a lifetime for Gus Edwards on this fucking podcast, and they gave all the touchdowns to Justice Hill out of fucking nowhere. Then the next week it was fucking Gus Edwards, and now it's fucking Keaton Mitchell. And in the next game it's going to be Lamar stealing them all, and it's going to be nobody. And it's like, to be honest, when I run this tomorrow when I run this, I'll probably do 10% to 3 of them, and that's it. Just have Gus Edwards in 2, Keaton Mitchell in 2, Justice Hill in 2. And I don't care if they're in the same fucking lineup. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I don't trust them enough to have them all throughout all my lineups, dude. It's just a shit show.
Yeah, because Justice Hill this last week, he didn't do anything. He didn't exist. He had like 7 yards on one attempt.
Yeah, it's shit. And it's crazy. Justice Hill has the highest ceiling of all of them. And it's probably because of that game where they gave him all the fucking touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's where he earned it. So, yeah. And I knew that was an exploitable running game matchup for them, and they gave it to him over Gus Edwards. It was just like mind-boggling. I was like, I'm in a fucking simulation. I should have won the Millie that week. I called everything perfect, but then the teams just fucked me over. But yeah, I think, you know, Cincinnati's easy to focus the players on. It's Baltimore. You're gonna have to pick somebody and give them a lot of exposure. And if you're right, you're gonna have a very good night. Like if you were to take Odell Beckham and just put him in like 90% of your lineups, or Bateman and put him in 90% of your lineups, that's something that's hard to do physically and mentally. Yes. But if they hit, one of them's gonna hit, and if he hit, you're gonna have a very successful night.
Zay Flowers went 5 for 6 for 73 yards.
I feel like he hasn't been doing shit.
He had 12.3 points on
last 2 weeks before that, he had like 3.
Yeah, it's 6. He against Arizona, 5 for 7 for 19 yards, and against Seattle, he went 1 for 1 for 11 yards.
This dude's had a total of 20 fantasy points in 3 games. It's crazy. And then before that, like weeks 1 and 2, he had like 30 fucking fantasy points every week. So
no, it was like 17, 10, 17.7, 10.8, 13, 8, 12.3, 17, 11. So like he goes in these little spurts.
17's his fucking ceiling, it sounds like.
17.7 is his highest, and that was against the Texans in week 1. 10 targets, 9 receptions for 78 yards. He's only scored 1 touchdown, so that's a problem. That's his problem. He's not getting in the end zone because
not looking at him in the end zone. They're running it in with all these running backs, or Lamar is running it in, or Mark Andrews is getting it.
And this last week, I think also that OBJ had a touchdown.
I would go as far as saying you could get some good exposure to the defenses in this game.
Consecutive weeks, Odell Beckham Jr. has had a touchdown.
That's what I'm saying.
756, and
he's starting to click with Odell. If you lock this motherfucker in like 80% of your lineups, and he gets a touchdown and pops off,
but he's very touchdown. He's very touchdown dependent.
He is. What's his price?
OBJ is 5,200.
Yeah, that might be a good price, man. If he gets you a touchdown, you don't need 4 or 5x on showdowns. Sometimes you just need the better score.
Yeah.
And just who's scoring the most on the fucking in the game. Let me see. Yep. Odell Beckham, 15 points and 11 points last 2 weeks. That'll be in the nuts lineup tomorrow if he gets you 15 points.
You can get, against Cleveland, he had 1 reception on 2 targets for 40 yards and a touchdown. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. So, even against Cincinnati in week 2, he had 3 receptions on 4 targets for 29 yards. Again, he's touchdown dependent. With no touchdowns, he hasn't broke. He's not doing it, but he's getting touchdowns. But he's consistent though. It shows that Lamar is looking his way. I mean, he's had at least 4 targets in every, or at least 3 targets in every game, except for against Cleveland. And of course, Cleveland has a #1 defense in the league. So
Justin Tucker could be the captain tomorrow.
I've seen it. I've been there, done that. I've done it. I've done it. I'm not afraid. That is one kicker I am not afraid on this earth to put as the captain.
Boy boots it.
They scored 15 or 16 points in a game. I mean, I feel like it's not just because like so many.
This is that type of game that could have that environment where defenses are kind of strong down in the red zone and they're just forced to kick.
I was wondering like what he did against them before. I mean, this year has been one of those weird kind of years off for.
This year when they played, he had two field goals against them, 1 for 44, 1 for 40. But then there was a touchdown, 3 touchdowns. So he had another 3 points for the extra kicks. So 9 points or 10. One of them might have been a 4-point kick. So he's anywhere from like 10 to 12 points as a kicker. That's probably in the nuts lineup itself.
Yeah. At 10 points for sure, because it's so in week 2 he had
11 points.
10
to 12 points. So
two 40 to 49-yard field goals.
He had 19 points in week 6 against Tennessee. That's breaking the slate. If he gets 19 and is in the captain spot, that's breaking the slate.
He had 14 last week or the week before last against Seattle.
Yeah, he'd be booting that motherfucking ball.
3 field goals on 3 attempts and 4 extra points, and no misses.
Yeah, he had a miss last week and still had 7. It would have been another 11-point game.
Yeah, so I know in DraftKings doesn't count misses against them.
Yeah, so it doesn't hurt.
As long as it does. So, but yeah, it definitely will be. And like you just said, I thought about this. It's kind of like it intrigues me that the Ravens defense could show up.
It could. At both sides, naturally, really. Because Baltimore just sucks on offense, dude. I don't know what it is. Sometimes they pop off, and in other games, it's just stagnant. And it's field goals. It's field goals and a rushing touchdown here and like a random touchdown to Nelson Aguilar. And then you're like, what the fuck, dude? You rostered Flowers, Odell, Mark Andrews, and they got you like 5 points combined. And you're like, what the fuck happened? They got 28 points, but all these people only got 5 fantasy points. Yeah. That's because Justin Tucker was fucking 9 of those points. Aguilar was 7 of them. Gus Edwards was 7 of them. Lamar Jackson was 7 of them. There's your fucking 20-something points, 30 points, and it went all around the world for them.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, this whole thing is weird. Like, I'm just looking at their schedule and who they lost to. That's weird, even more weird. Lost to the Browns this last week by 2.
Should have never lost that game. They were dominating.
They lost to the Steelers by 7. And then they lost to the Colts by 3.
Sickening.
Anthony Richardson Colts, too, I think. Or maybe that was Gardner Minshew's Colts at that point. I can't remember if he was.
I do see that Burrow is rostered 71% of the time in the flex. That's probably one of the highest QB flexes I've ever seen.
Well, I think he's gonna have to be. It's gonna have to be Joe Burrow leading the charge tomorrow. I think because even running the ball this last Sunday. They should, Nick. They should. I think it's his time.
He's one of the best coaches of all time, dude.
I think they should. I think his time is done. I think it's just hang it up, like, bro. Like, you should
have left when Brady left.
The Patriot way is dead. It's just dead and buried. It doesn't work anymore. He can't draft a fucking wide receiver to save his life.
I don't think he drafts the wide receivers.
He does. He drafts them all. He does it. He's a general manager. He has all the draft power. My man makes every decision.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, somebody's telling him who to draft, and he's drafting them.
He's drafting bums.
Like those scouts are out there. He ain't out there scouting. They're out there scouting and telling him like, look, we need this guy. And then he takes their word for it, and they fucking suck. And then he's the one that everybody's looking at like,
he's drafting like a bum.
What you draft this guy for?
Drafting bums, man. Like literally, they just put Mac Jones, our flag football buddy. He's the third man on the depth chart now.
Yeah, I saw that.
Busting him down the third man on the depth chart. So, but yeah, I think we know where to go.
Covered it all. It's going to be an exposure game for me, that's for sure. Jamar Chase looks like my favorite.
What is it? Is it looking like a 3-3 game right now?
It's
like
going to be high owned. Yeah, 3-3 or 4-2 in favor of Cincy. 3-3 is 30%, 4-2 is 30%. Cincinnati, though. 4 Cincinnati players. Can't recruit Milkman. I mean, I think the problem is they recruited Jermo Elkins and Tommy Ryklinski. And, you know, you can't have both bums on the same team.
Yeah, you gotta stack them with
They should have grabbed Brian Wheeler. That's what
Brian Wheeler.
That's who they should have got.
Me
and Cody were watching him for a long time now, so
yeah,
should have grabbed that guy.
Yeah, yes, sir. Well, I think that's good. We missed Brad. He was out sick. Got to stop that a little. So get better, dude. So we can see you on Saturday.
Hope Brad gets better.
We will have plenty for you on Saturday. So come back and check us out. And
let us know how you do on this showdown tomorrow. I'm probably going to do some freaky shit. Probably rostering Justin Tucker as the captain based on
I probably will.
ownership. Probably going to have to do that. And maybe, like, I hate doing both captains on the same team, but I'm also intrigued by Baltimore's defense just a little bit. They make plays, they get sacks, they put pressure, and it's a way to get off the chalk. I mean, everybody's going to be on Burrow and fucking Chase. If everybody's on Burrow and Chase and they fail, why did they fail? Baltimore's defense.
I think very well Baltimore's defense is a super viable play in FanDuel tomorrow for sure.
Yes. And Brian Wheeler, I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer. I don't know about that, but you know, I mean, he might
be the NRG in the NRG Hall of Fame. I don't know.
Yeah, he's not, you know, he ain't no he's a little better than Jermo and Tommy Rock, but he ain't no Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Big worm, big perm.
Yeah. All right, y'all. I think that's a wrap. And we will catch y'all on Saturday.
Peace. Good luck. Holla at us in the Facebook.